Today, I have a message for you that will quite literally change the world around us as we know it. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the commonly told story of Yellowstone, more specifically, how the wolves transformed the very trajectory of the rivers that ran through the park. But what if I told you that there's far more complexity to this natural wonder than meets the eye? My name is Jada Mattrey, and this is Unlearning the Big Bad Wolf, how 1995 shaped our understanding of ecosystems. The truth is, in its complexity, an ecosystem is actually very fragile. Before 1926, wolves roamed freely on the land known as Yellowstone National Park. Packs mainly inhabited the famous Lamar Valley, home to the first and the last of the native gray wolves. Beautiful, right? Sorry. Wolves have been victims of predator hunting in efforts to tame the wilderness and reduce dangerous human encounters. Obviously, this is understandable. However, the people that carried out these eradication efforts lacked a full understanding of the impact of their actions on the environment. By a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with the popular children's book, When You Give a Mouse a Cookie? Or If You Give a Mouse a Cookie? Well, the saying goes, if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to ask for a glass of milk. If you give him a glass of milk, he's going to ask for a straw to go with it, so on and so forth. How does this relate to wolves, you may ask? Well, the same sort of domino effect that occurs in the book also, in a way, occurred with the wolves in Yellowstone. This rapid cause and effect is known as the trophic cascade. So this diagram kind of represents this cascade. As you can see, there are several trophic levels to this process. At the bottom, you have the primary producers. These are mainly the plants in the ecosystem responsible for the foundation of the ecosystem's energy. Plants in Yellowstone's case, including aspen trees, willow trees, and grass. Next, you have the primary consumers. These are the animals that feed off of these plants, and they include animals such as elk, deer, rabbits, and beavers. Then you have the secondary consumers. These are the predators to the primary animals. And at the very top, you have the tertiary consumers, the apex predator, the gray wolf. After their eradication, this top trophic level disappeared, causing the entire ecosystem to unravel before the horrified eyes of many. Without their main danger present, the elk population skyrocketed, and because they no longer had this fear of being hunted by the wolves, they were then able to go and graze in open and exposed areas. This caused the vegetation to be stripped from the land, leaving beavers without resources to build their homes, as well as other animals without their natural habitat. This, as a whole, decreased the overall biodiversity, one of the main features the park always prided itself on. And most notably, and keep this in mind for later, the riversides, the land alongside the rivers began to erode. A decade later, Yellowstone was almost unrecognizable, proving that wolves are in fact a lot more important than people originally realized. Because just as the mouse will ask for milk after you give him a cookie, the entire ecosystem will begin to unravel after removing just one key species, in a domino effect-like fashion. It was clear that something needed to be done, and in 1995, that's where the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services stepped in. Together, they formulated a plan called the Northern Rocky Mountain Wolf Recovery Plan. This plan proposed the reintroduction of 14 wolves into the park, captured from Canada and brought into Lamar Valley, with the hopes of restoring all that had been previously lost due to their eradication. And to the surprise of many, this plan was successful. There was an immediate decrease in elk, and the vegetation and wildlife flourished, promoting the biodiversity and bringing animals back that had lost their homes due to the vegetation being stripped from the land. And the erosion alongside the rivers decreased, and the rivers changed their very course due to the vegetation. Wolves changed the rivers. Doug Smith, a wildlife expert who was involved with this project, said it best. It is like kicking a pebble down a mountain slope, where conditions were just right that a falling pebble could trigger an avalanche of change. So how is any of this relevant to us in our day and age? We solved the issue of Yellowstone, therefore all predators and wolves are forever protected, right? Wrong. Wolves are still at risk of predator hunting, and although there have been many conservation efforts, many of these laws have since been lifted. Sharks, another example of a predator that has been overhunted, they are one of the main apex predators that rule the ocean's ecosystems. They are commonly hunted for their fins, unlike wolves. Wolves are hunted mainly to reduce dangerous encounters. However, sharks are also hunted to reduce encounters, but they are mainly hunted for their fins, which is a very unsustainable practice called finning. But this has major effects on the ocean's ecosystem and disrupts coastal economies, having impacts on coral reefs and just the fisheries. Also, see the effects of tampering of the food chain and human intervention. Lastly, coyotes are hunted often to protect livestock. Who here has had a coyote or a fox make its way into your backyard and kill one of your chickens? Yeah? Coyotes, unlike wolves, are far more adaptable to this hunting, and fascinatingly, they tend to breed more in the areas where they are hunted, causing an overpopulation. And although this benefits the particular species, this still has the same equally damaging effects as it does with the wolves on their own ecosystem. So observing this, it seems as though many would rather reap the short-term benefits over the long-term outcomes that overhunting presents. But what if we can find a way to balance conservation and human existence? Because coexistence must be the final goal. We can approach this using non-invasive measures such as electric fencing. This keeps wolves out of human-occupied territory while still allowing them to thrive in their natural habitat. Similar to this, guard dogs and guard animals can regulate the activity outside of the ecosystem without invading the actual ecosystem itself, again, separating humans and wolves. Separating humans and predators. Lastly, awareness. Although it won't solve the overarching issue of overhunting, it's vital for progression. Think, how many animals would still live to see this day if hunters understood the true gravity of their actions? And how many ecosystems would be continuing to thrive? Awareness must be spread. Yellowstone provided helpful lessons, but now it's our job to use this knowledge to our advantage and not squander it and continue on with old harmful practices. Because if wolves can change rivers, who's to say that we can't change the way we view predators? The wolf doesn't have to be big or bad. Yellowstone revealed the flaws of humanity and the resilience of ecosystems. But most importantly, it allowed for the simple admiration of the complexity and beauty that nature entails. Thank you.